Good morning. This is Bob Passy, coming to you from very cold Minnesota. It's 25 below zero here this morning. That's probably why I have warm clothes on. I also have a fire in the fireplace, but that doesn't change anything because in some ways the democracy in this country is almost in the position of being frozen out. There's nothing I have to prove about that. I'm sure everybody who is at all alert knows what's going on how this country is being demolished by our autocratic president. But you have to remember that he's just the whole process being played out to its final conclusions. When the system and the narrative that it's based on have lost all their validity, then you end up getting more and more autocratic. You end up with a kind of police state, and we certainly have that with NSA kind of watching over us all the time. We have militarism, and we have everybody sort of being forced into believing in economic system that is really not working for us at all. It's working wonderfully for those on top. And all the power and all the wealth have been concentrated in a very small group that have been pretty much walled off from the rest of us. And it's all based on a narrative. Every society has a narrative or a story that the people in the society are expected to believe. And when that narrative or that story no longer works for the people, they are sort of two minds. They have, on one hand, they're expected to continue to, as though they believe in the story, but all their senses tell them that that story is not working for them. And as a matter of fact, it's creating a lot of problems, and it's diverting all of their resources and their and their right to have a voice in their future away from them and into the hands of a smaller and smaller group, in this case an economic aristocracy. I recently published a book called Saving Democracy that is about exactly what I've been talking about, but exactly what's going on in this country. And not only that, I mean, it shows how we've taken the wrong path. Someplace along the line after the New Deal, we began to be given a narrative of how economics were going to save us all. And as we got farther down that path, we found out that it was a scam, that it really wasn't intended for us. It was intended for the people who had or who wanted to have the power and the money, and it's all been transferred to them in that process. And as the entire spirit of this country and the relevance of that narrative even have gotten less and less effective, we begin to see that, for instance, they basically hollowed out everything. The Congress no longer is effective. That's been hollowed out. The judiciary is no longer. There's not a lot of justice that comes out of the judiciary anymore. So that's been hollowed out. And now the presidency is it's not only been hollowed out, but it's an empty shell. But that process has been going on for a long time because all of the people within the establishment of the government and the society going along with that story have been telling us that if we just continue to believe that economics, that neoliberal economics is going to be our savior, that everything will be okay. And if it's not working quite right, we just need to believe harder. Well, when you are told you have to believe something that clearly isn't working and you're torn two ways, you end up with what's called consonance or dissonance, and basically your head is going in two ways. And the other description of that is you begin to feel crazy. reality and what they say reality is and what reality really is don't coincide anymore. And so you are left doing crazy things. You escape into drugs or some other kind of escapist mechanism to start to try to deal with the pain of being so empty. Our society is empty. The people are told if they have to continue to follow the direction that this story is leading, they're empty too. And so the economics don't fill that void. You have escapism, but you also have violence. I mean, it's like this, we can't continue to do this. It is going to kill us. It is killing us. And around the world, you have violence. It is time for that system to change. It is not an issues idea. We can't do it by attacking different issues within that system of neoliberal economics. It's built so that it will not change. And the story is, if it's not working yet, just believe harder. Put more of your money into it. Put more of your resources and more of your energy into it, and it will all turn out okay. Very few people have faith anymore in that, and we need to begin to find a way to, just like if your religion is not working for you anymore, you find a religion that is more in tune with how you see the world operating. And so we need to go back to another narrative. It's not a radical narrative. It is way less radical than neoliberal economics ever was, and that narrative is democracy. So the book that I published called Saving Democracy, the 2016 presidential election as an American watershed, is about how throughout our history this contest between the economic elite who wanted to have power and speak for all of us, and democracy, which basically gives the voice of what goes on in the country to the people, all of the people, not excluding the rich, but not excluding the people who aren't rich either. How, as we followed down that path after the New Deal, farther and farther away from the democratic ideal, everything began to get hollowed out, and we ended up with an empty society. And this last election is a perfect example of that. The only person in this last election that wasn't justifying that empty society was Bernie Sanders, and they closed him out pretty abruptly. So we have to find a way to simply walk away. We're not going to change it within the system. We have to go outside the system. But we have another handy system right there. It's called democracy. And if we unify and we begin to attend the church of democracy and demonstrate democracy in every way we can, in other words, we don't have to have a fight. We're not going to be able to beat them in terms of having an army that's going to beat them. They have the technology, and they have the military, and they have the economic might. But the system will not operate, it will not be able to function if it doesn't have the support of the people. So we need to begin to slowly and purposefully move our allegiances away from this story that they have been telling and back to a story that we basically in our heritage believe, and that is how to begin to develop a democratic society again. We need to stop being observers of what's going on and begin to be participants, begin to be full-fledged citizens defending the important things in our life. So again, the name of the book is Saving Democracy, and it is a mission that we need to pay attention to if we want democracy to survive in this country. And the book is full of a message of how we can do that without a violent revolution. And it's full of suggestions. You can also get more information at my website, which is bobpassy.com. Anyway, I hope all of you are in warmer places than we are, but we're making it fine too. And we'll talk again later. Bye now.